Since the dawn of time, humans have looked up to the stars for answers and inspiration. The curiosity of our next guest drove him to look further and deeper into the sustainability of our way of making food. Please welcome Daan Luining, founder and CTO of Meatable.
Good evening, everybody. I'm so glad I got to be here tonight. And I'm so glad to hear you, to tell you that in the future, you can have your steak and eat it too. It's unbelievable, but really already a decade ago, I started this journey to make sure that in the future, everybody has access to high quality food, but without the need of slaughtering animals ever again. This was exactly what I was doing back in 2013. I was a cell biologist at the University of Maastricht doing research on how to grow muscle and fat cells from cows. We did this to make the world's first laboratory-grown hamburger, and people were excited. This new idea of creating food, but without the damaging effect to the environment, spoke to the imagination of what could become in the future. And I was excited to continue my journey into this field to make sure that not only because I was 1 in 5 people in the lab working on this, but more people, and maybe like future entrepreneurs like yourself, could participate in this work. So I moved to New York to join the team of New Harvest. These lovely ladies have erected a non-profit organization that funded academic research in this space. So I cannot be only by myself, but a multitude of people helping us to achieve the scale and the technological knowledge that is needed to do this at a large scale. I helped develop their roadmap, and I'm very proud to say that today over 15 researchers around the world are doing research and making sure we don't need animals in the future ever again. But after this, I came across my co-founder, and he sparked the entrepreneurial flame inside of me. And I was about to go up to set up a company called Meatable. And Meatable is making these products without them using animals. But we were just the 3 of us. We look very reassured in this picture, but I can tell you we're definitely not. Starting a company is tough. And this is how the first couple of years of the company looked like. We had 25 square meters with the 3 of us. But the good thing, it was our 25 square meters. We were so proud of what we achieved, and this was our headquarters. And maybe you can see the anxious look in my face, but it was all pride. Because especially when we were growing, we started to house more people. So like the cells that we grew in our labs, 3 people became 5, 5 became 8, 8 became 12. And 12 people on 25 square meters is very tight. So like ourselves, we needed more space to flourish, to make sure we could launch the company into the next level of scalability and of growth, to make sure that everybody around the world could have been enjoying our products. But this is tough. A grown company, a lot of uncertainty, growing the team while you're finding new space is a tough business. So we found a space which is very unique, but when we arrived, it looked like this. This was the old research building of DSM, the largest biotech company in the Netherlands. And they just moved their lab to a brand new building. And their old facilities was dusting away, looking like this. And they said to us, well, we really like what you're doing, but we really need some time to innovate on the space and to make it ready for you. And we were scared. We didn't know if it would make it in time, if it would look nice, and if it would actually welcome the people that we were just hiring, to make sure we created a lovely environment for them to flourish and to grow inside of the company. But 3 months after that, we came back, and then the lab looked like this. A state-of-the-art cell culturing lab. And you might imagine now, oh, lab-grown meat, that maybe doesn't sound delicious, but you should realize that this is really what the foundation is all about. Here's where we start, and eventually we will look like any other food processing company that you can imagine. And this is where we launch our mission. And our mission is to satisfy the world with the need of the food that they desire. And in this case, it's meat. Probably a lot of people, and probably a lot of young people, are eating less and less meat. But this is definitely not the case in the rest of the world. People are actually eating more and more meat, because people love doing this. Especially with the nice weather outside, you can probably smell the smell of freshly fried meat on the barbecue. And this is a very emotional thing, right? Especially when you turn on the barbecue, especially men, they tend to huddle around the barbecue and look how the color of the meat turns from red to brown, and then share the food together and have a great time. And I must say, I love meat. I think it's delicious. It is so hard to quit eating meat. And I'm not the only one in the world who thinks that. If you look at these graphs, and basically the gist of it, everything goes up. Everything goes up. And on the left side, you can see the world's production of meat from all the different countries in the world. And people are eating more and more meat. And the explanation for that is that you can see on the other graph is that the more money people have, the more diverse and the more animal proteins they take up in their diet. And of course, us Europeans are not as bad as the Americans, which is 120 kilograms per person per year, but we're not far behind. The Netherlands, where I'm from, eats about 2.5 million kilograms of meat every day. This is not every year, every day, 2.5 million kilograms. And now a lot of people are coming out of poverty that had a very undiverse diet and suddenly have the money to uptake different types of products. And you can imagine that suddenly 1 billion other people are demanding high quality food. And I'm afraid that the world will eventually look like this. This is a feeding lot in the States, where you can see the black specks are the cows on the field, and on the left side you can see a manure puddle. And the call is a runoff. And what happens with all these runoff that is collected in this puddle is that an algae bloom occurs. And the algae will start eating the manure, because it loves eating this manure. But doing so, it creates this toxic environment, not only for the animals, not only for the humans, but also for the environment itself, creating toxic gases that seep into the groundwater, will make the land unusable for decades to come. This is my biggest fear, that eventually we will drown in manure. And also, what comes along with this is not only the manure part of it, but already the resources that goes into producing meat are incredible. Because animals don't have an obligation to be efficient to become our food. For 1 kilogram of beef, you use 15,000 liters of water. And together, the entire animal husbandry industry is responsible for 15% of all greenhouse gases emitted globally. This is more than the entire transportation industry combined. And I don't have to tell you about zoonosis after the last 2 years. I am scared that eventually another breakout will happen and we'll have to go back into lockdown. And we're giving 70% of all antibiotics to animals just to keep them healthy, because we are putting more animals per square meter than ever before, spreading disease like wildfire. We've been having a massive bird flu outbreak, and that's only the tip of the iceberg. Swine flu, mad cow disease, Creutzfeldt-Jakob, all these diseases come from animals and eventually infect us. So something has to be done. We need to radically change on how we are producing food, but also how we are consuming food. And what study has been shown, at scale, cultivated meat can reduce greenhouse gas emissions by itself, so not talking about methane emissions or land use or water use, but just the CO2 already by many-fold over between 5 and 90% of the difference in CO2 emissions. This is incredible. So we need to get excited about this future that we can create together. And that is what we're doing. We're talking to people, asking them how would they feel if they will be able to eat a steak, and next to them there will be a cow that's eating grass from the same animal which their steak is being made from. And maybe it's not a surprise, but you can see that older generations are not as keen on trying new things, and young people like yourself are more excited. But even still, if you keep the number of of 2.5 million kilograms in mind, and already 40% of the people are enthusiastic about eating this. These are huge numbers. So we already have an amazing case to make sure that we don't eat ourselves to death in the next century. So this is a factory, how it might look like. This is very futuristic, of course, but that's why we're here at Future Entrepreneur. But this is an environment where we can produce safe, nutritious, delicious, and without disease products that people can enjoy. But we need more people to help us. We need more people to participate in this. And this is just the beginning of my dream. This is just one aspect of removing animals from the equation. What I really like to do is create a food center, maybe in halls like this, where on the first floor you'll have a supermarket, where you can buy all the products that are being made in the top floors combined. So on the first floor, we'll have Meatable, creating cultivated meat. On the second floor, you have cultivated milk. On the third floor, cultivated eggs, hydroponics. So instead of growing food around the world, transporting it on big freighters, moving it in and out of the city, you can create locally produced food that people can eat fresh. No decay, very fresh, so you don't have to throw everything away, and also no transport around the city, reducing the amount of CO2 needed to produce our food. And of course, I wouldn't be standing here without all the people that are already participating. I'm just now one in 80 people in our company that is working very hard on this, and I'm just the face of it. All these people here are working every day to make sure this becomes a reality. So if you're inspired by my story, or if you want to participate, please reach out. Our website is meatable.com. You can visit, you can call, you can email if you want to participate to make sure that we create a future where everybody has access to real delicious meat, but without the need of slaughtering an animal ever again. Thank you very much.
So a few questions left for you, so you can come back with me on stage. It's not done yet. No, thank you for your inspiring keynote. Last year we had to host the event online due to COVID, so we couldn't do a Q&A, but now we can. So there are people from the Sync team walking around with microphones, so if you have a question, please raise your hand. Can we have a bit more light? Because, yeah, thank you. Is there a question for Daan? While you're thinking of your questions, I have a question. How do you convince people that eat meat daily to switch to Meatable?
So if you're still enjoying the taste of meat every day, and it's very, so I'm from the Netherlands, it's a very Dutch tradition to eat meat, potatoes, and a vegetable on your plate. This is a very common dish that people diversify the meat part, but those people are the ones I want to target. And the good thing about what we're doing is we're making actual meat. It is real muscle and fat from an animal. So it's not a Beyond Meat burger, which is a great product by itself, but it's real meat that people are eating. And I think that is, as you can see, with a lot of things that people have need for example, an electric car, it still fulfills the need of going from A to B, but without damaging the environment. We are producing a similar type of product that is exactly the same as meat, but without damaging the environment. So if people are conscious about, oh, I have an impact on this planet by what I eat, but I still enjoy meat, this is a product that they can see.
Amazing. In the meantime, do I have questions for Daan? Don't be shy. I know, but now it's your time. I have a question here in front. Hello, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Lina, and I was wondering, and I think a lot of young people wonder about this, if you start a project like this, you need a lot of money. How do you start it? Did you start?
Well, my job title may be founder and CTO, but I can also put professional bagger on already. Because I think for the first seed round, we had about between 200 and 300 conversations with VCs. So we went around Europe and asked people if they wanted to invest in our company. And if every time people said no, we asked them if they had 2 other people that might be interested in this idea. So from the one that we started, it became 2 and exponentially grew. And about 250, we had the first person that said yes. So it really is a grinding game. When you have a good idea, you need to start convincing other people. You need to have a good story that you need to practice. And you don't need to be afraid to have your door slammed into your face a multitude of times. It is really a grinding game. It's about fortitude to make sure that if you believe in your idea, that it floats to the top and you get people along with your journey.
Thank you. Someone else? I saw a question over there. Yeah, on the left, here in the middle. Hello, good evening. What's your name?
Hallo, mijn naam is Samir El-Maklini. Ik ga het in Nederlands doen, maar dan kun je dat vertalen.
Ja, perfect. Ik ga goed luisteren.
Nu, je kunt dat ook maken van mycelium. Ik denk dat je er al van weet. Zijn jullie daarmee bezig en denk je dat daar toekomst voor is?
You can also, yeah, you
want to
understand.
reply?
No, I'm fine.
I can also reply. Do you want me to reply in English? Is that all right?
I think for
That's all right.
Yeah, so the question is, so mycelium can also be a very good substitute for meat. So there is a amino acid profile of each product that will be fulfilling the nutritional value that you need of a daily intake. What I believe is that it's not a silver bullet that solves all the problems. You need to do everything. People need to start eating less meat. We need to start more plant-based diets. We need to start more mycelium-based diets. Hopefully also cultivated meat, maybe even insects in the future. So it's not an and/or game. Currently we're focused on creating real animal meat from these animal cells, but who knows what's in the future.
And then we have time for one last question. There, here on the third row. Good evening, what's your name?
I'm Lisa. I will try it in English. I'm wondering, because I think there's a lot of students here, if you look back on your path as a student, what would you tell yourself? What would be your best tip?
What would I tell myself? That studying is not as bad as you might think it is. I was actually a terrible high school student, which led me to the lower educations in the Netherlands. And it took me 9 years from my middelbare opleiding, middelbaar onderwijs, to eventually my master's. So 9 years that I had to hold on, because I was a terrible student. But in the final years, I finally got the knack of it and started getting passionate about the idea that I believed in. But you need to make sure that you are scouting on what you want to do in the future. This is the hardest part. How does your future look like, and what can you do now to make sure you'll reach that? And you can do it either through studying or through work experience, but make sure you get value from the work that you do.
We have to round up. Thank you so much, Daan, for your inspiring talk. I've heard you're staying for a drink. So, thank you.